Okay, in this video, we've created our animation, but we are not actually triggering it inside of our level yet. And specifically, we want to trigger our cinematic, right? Our sequencer, I get confused with the terminology. Our cinematic level sequence, that's the one I'm looking for, our level sequence. And in order to do that, just like I did in my UI, inside of my blueprint, my level blueprint, so blueprints, open level blueprint, I want to make my UI, and then I actually think I'm gonna show you two different methods to do this. I'm gonna do a delay just so that we don't switch to our camera early and trigger our animation. I'm gonna say make our UI, wait for some amount of time before we start playing the level sequence, and then play the level sequence. So I'm going to do that. I'm gonna say event begin play. After we've done our setup, let's do an immediate play just to show you what that looks like first. I'm gonna do what I did before. I make a custom event. So right click, type in custom event, and we'll call this play intro cutscene. I think that's pretty straightforward. Okay, and once you create this down here, I want to drag off of after my setup UI. I want to play intro cutscene. So as soon as it makes the UI, we are playing the intro cutscene, or hopping down here. And in order to do that, it's going to look pretty similar to our blueprint node before when we played our UI node animation. But all it is, if you drag off and you type in play, let's see here, play animation maybe, play. And because there's so many play things here, I'm actually going to show you a different way to do it. Maybe I can scroll up here. Yeah, let's do it this way. I'm going to add the sequence into my level blueprint, and then I'm going to pull off of that because that's going to narrow down the number of functions that I can do. Because if I'm just pulling into my level blueprints, there are so many things that I have access to. So what I'm going to do, and I would actually need a reference to this anyways, I'm going to add a reference to my level sequence into my level blueprints. So to do that, I need to drag that in. So open this up right here, and then drag in from intro, right here, from your hierarchy, or sorry, your world outliner, into your blueprints right here. If you drag it in, you should get a reference to it just like that. And I'm going to drag off of that and say play. Now you'll see I get a little bit more narrow right here. So if I say play sequence player, it does two things. It gives me a reference right here. It's going from my sequence into my sequence player, which is a component on the sequence, and it's pulling off of that. So as a part of my sequence player component, I get the ability to play. So I'm just going to drag that right there. I know that may be a little confusing, but this is why I have to convert it. Is I have to go from my larger game object or component, and I need to go deeper into the sequence player component, and that is what is actually playing it. All right, we compile save. If I hit play, I believe it's going to appear like it's not working, and I'll show you what's really happening. So I'm gonna move this off to the side. Let me double check real quick. Oh, it's up here. Okay. So we're going to set up our UI, then we're going to play our intro cutscene. Okay. And so we should hop down here and we should play it, and that should be working, but it's going to look like it's not. So let's view this for a second. So hit play. See how it hopped down into my player controller right there? Now the reason that happened is because, let me stop this. We're actually playing it right here immediately after setting up our UI. So this is happening behind our UI, and then it's just going to the player after and returning control. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the manual way to add a delay. So let's say if we know ahead of time that our intro UI animation is 8 seconds, this is kind of the hacky way to do it, but it will work for us, and I really just want to show you multiple ways that you're going to see this done, and then we'll look at another way to do it later on. So set up UI, if I drag off of this, I just want to say, once you set up the UI, let's wait just like that. Let's wait, and then we are going to, let's wait for 8 seconds, so the duration, 8 seconds before we play. Play intro cutscene. Okay, so this should do the setup UI intro animation. After it does that, it should wait, or while it's doing that, it should wait for 8 seconds and then play the intro cutscene. Pile, save, see what that looks like. And wait for this to play. Oh. So you see there, maybe I didn't get my timing right, and that's the downside of doing it that way. So let's actually double check to make sure how long our intro animation is. Play animation, intro, fade. Let's go back to our designer view and select. So it looks like, so you see this fade right here is fading at 8 seconds, but we can see what's on the camera at 7 seconds. So we actually want to delay for 7 seconds, and then we'll fade the UI out like that. So this is what I want, right? This is when I can no longer see the background in my UI. So I want to move that to 7 seconds. So we do that. Let's save that. And this is the downside, is if the animator changes the length of time, well, then we have to come back here and we have to change this value. So we could pull this off as a variable and say this, make sure you set this. So it's not necessarily the best way to do it. It's one way to do it, and I prefer to show you a few different ways just so you understand how things are working. So I'm going to save that, make sure that that's however long yours is before you start fading out the background image and your text animation. What was that? And if you hit play now, there we go. That's working a lot better. Okay, and actually that's working pretty good, and that pretty much does what we want. Now you'll see the other problem, as I'm going to play this one more time, which we'll fix next, is you noticed that you can move your player, right? Like you see me running in the background. You can move your player during the cutscene, and you don't really want that. So next we're going to talk about how you can lock player input to prevent them from controlling their character during your cutscene.